Okay, guys, welcome back to today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed your library lesson yesterday. So, before we get started with today, can you please make sure that you have everything you need? Pause the video now if you need a second to get organised. All right, so that means that you should be ready to write our title date and our learning objective, which is I will learn how to plan an essay so I can plan and write my own essay about Caliban. So pause the video and get that down now for me, please. All right, if you're back, that means you're ready to complete the do now task. And what I would like you to do is use your knowledge organizer packs to find and write 5 quotes about Prospero. If you don't have your knowledge organizer, I will try and post a PDF copy on Show My Homework for you. Pause the video now and get 5 quotes about Prospero. All right, if you're back, that means that you've got your 5 quotes and we're ready to move on. So, like the title suggests, today we're going to be looking at planning an essay. I'm going to teach you a better way to plan an essay. The reason we're doing this is because on the 22nd of January, which is a Friday, next Friday, you're going to be doing an assessment on The Tempest. Please do not worry, because I can imagine that some of you are panicking right now. You are going to be more than prepared. Today is particularly going to prepare you for that assessment. Okay, so in an assessment situation, you always get a question that looks something like this. Starting with this extract, how does Shakespeare present Prospero? Obviously, it might be a different character or a different theme, but you will always get an extract that matches the question. So this extract for this question is from Act 1, Scene 2. Now, before you even begin to plan your essay, you're going to want to reread the extract. So let's do that now. I pray thee, mark me, I thus neglecting worldly ends, all dedicated to closeness and the bettering of my mind, with that which, but by being so retired, overprized all my popular rate, in my false brother await an evil nature, and my trust, like a good parent, did beget of him. A falsehood in its contrary, as great as my trust was, which had indeed no limit, a confidence sans bound. He, being thus lauded, not only with what my revenue yielded, but what my power might else exact, like one who having into truth by telling of it, made such a sinner of his memory to credit his own lie. He did believe he was indeed the Duke, out of the substitution and executing the outward face of royalty with all prerogative, hence his ambition growing. Dost thou hear? Your tale, sir, would cure deafness. To have no screen between this part he played, and him he played it for, he needs will be absolute Milan. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough. Of temporal royalties he thinks me now incapable. Confederate so dry as he was for sway, with the King of Naples to give him annual tribute, do him homage, subject his coronet to his crown, and bend the dukedom yet unbowed. Alas, poor Milan, too most ignoble stooping. O the heavens, mark his condition and the event, then tell me if this might be a brother. So we've read this extract from Act 1, Scene 2 before, and it's when Prospero is explaining to Miranda how they came to be on the island, and that is as a result of Prospero being usurped by his brother. Okay, so once you've done that, you probably are going to want to use this extract to form one of your 3 paragraphs. So remember, in an analytical essay, you write your thesis statement and then 3 paragraphs. This extract is going to form one of those paragraphs. So at this point, I would grab my pen or my highlighter and I would choose the key quotes that I take from this extract. So the question asks about how does Shakespeare present Prospero, and I feel quite sorry for him in this extract. He's just trying to better his mind, just trying to read and learn and study, and he ends up being completely and utterly betrayed by his brother. So I'm going to talk about that using the quotes. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough. And I might also choose another one just in case. I might talk about how he trusted his brother like a good parent. So I've read the extract at this point and I've highlighted some key quotes. Now, to actually planning the essay. So, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to plan an essay. All you need to do for this lesson is to kind of follow the steps of the planning process. So before we move on, can you please copy down this title here, starting with this extract, how does Shakespeare present Prospero? And then can you briefly map out this character or theme arc? So all you're going to do is copy this shape out into whatever you're writing. And we're going to use this shape to plot our 3 paragraphs. Pause the video and do that now for me, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you have the question and this arc into your exercise book or whatever you're writing on. Now, the second step is you need to decide where in the arc the exam extract sits in terms of the whole text and therefore what paragraph you will use it for. So, the extract that we just read was from Act 1, Scene 2, which is at the beginning of the play. So have a quick think in your head. Do you think that extract and the quotes that I selected would form my first paragraph, my second paragraph, or my third paragraph? Okay, I'm hoping that you chose that it would form my first paragraph. It's kind of the first time that we actually meet Prospero and hear from him. So I would definitely use the extract and the quotes that I highlighted earlier as my first paragraph. And to plan that on the arc, I'm just going to write Act 1, Scene 2. So could you please do that now? Write Act 1, Scene 2 at the beginning of your character arc. Okay, if you're back, that means you have this written on your arc and you're ready to move on. The final step of our planning process is to look at the arc and decide on your other essays paragraphs. It's really important here that you make sure to demonstrate knowledge from across the whole text. This is going to be slightly challenging for The Tempest because we haven't finished the play yet, but that's okay because we have until February half term to finish it if we need to, and we're going to do plenty of revision in summer. So Act 1, Scene 2 is my first paragraph, and I now need to think about, okay, when else do I see Prospero in the play, and what other moments in the play could I analyse talking about Prospero? Have a think about that independently. What other moments might you choose to analyse about Prospero? Okay, so I have decided to talk about the end of Act 1, Scene 2 as my second paragraph. The reason is, even though it's the same act as our first paragraph, we see a change, okay, because we learn a lot about how Ariel and Caliban are treated by Prospero. And then my third paragraph is going to talk about Act 2, Scene 2. So these 3 moments are going to form each of my paragraphs. So we have paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. Can you make sure that this is copied down? You don't need to number the paragraphs, you can if you would like to, but make sure that you've written the purple text into your character arc now, please. Okay, so at this point, we have read the extract, we've highlighted some key quotes, and we've planned the focus of each of our 3 paragraphs. Now we're moving on to writing the essay. And the first step of writing the essay is writing our thesis statement. To write our thesis statement, we need to talk about the change in Prospero's character. So we've done this briefly before, but you're going to want to start your thesis statement here, and then you're going to want to also end your thesis statement here. That means that your thesis statement tracks the change from the beginning of your paragraphs to the end of your paragraphs. So let's write a thesis statement together. And this here is the structure that we use to do that. So my first step in my thesis statement is to write when in the text. Like I say, we're focusing this on the beginning of first paragraph. So I'm going to write at the start of the play. My next step is to write how is the theme or character presented. So the question is about Prospero. And we said in the extract, which is our first paragraph, that Prospero kind of seems a bit weak. He seems a bit vulnerable. So I'm actually going to write Shakespeare presents Prospero as a vulnerable man who has been betrayed by his brother. Okay, so at this point we've addressed the beginning. And like I said, we're not going to talk about the middle moment, but we do need to track the change to the final paragraph. Okay, so next we need to write when in the text. So we're going to write as the text progresses. You could also say develops. And then we need to talk about how the theme or character develops and changes. So Prospero doesn't always stay as a vulnerable man who's been betrayed. He changes. So I'm going to write Shakespeare conveys that Prospero is actually I would say maybe bitter and powerful slave master. And my final step is to talk about how does the writer convey this? How do I know that Prospero is a bitter and powerful slave master? And I know that through his treatment of all the people around him. And that is my thesis statement. Just to make it really, really clear, my thesis statement tracks the change from the beginning. And that is what this section of my thesis does. And it also tracks it to the end, which is what this part of my thesis statement does. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to please copy this thesis statement down. It's really important that you can see how the character arc and our plan turns into a thesis statement. So copy the thesis statement down and use the checklist to highlight and colour code the thesis statement. So let's do the first one together. My first step in my checklist is when in the text, and the phrase in my thesis that tells me when in the text is at the start of the play. So go through now and colour code the rest of the checklist with this paragraph. Okay guys, now you should have a perfectly colour coded thesis statement. Please make sure that you send me a picture of your work today to my email and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Good work today, guys. Well done.